Okay, in this function, or in this question from the study guide, we need to graph some sine and cosine functions. So I need to do the midline, amplitude, and period. So there's one thing that you should know about the period, and that's that when I just have a sine x or a cosine x in one of these, the period is always going to be 2 pi. Remember, we graph these in radians. We're not graphing them in degrees. I've talked a little bit about why the period is what it is in the previous video for number 15. So what I'm going to do to graph this thing is start by drawing my axes. Excuse me. And I guess I'll label some of these things over here on the left first. So the 3, that's the midline. Can you tell what the midline is for the other one over here, this cosine one? Well, let's add a -2. The amplitude, so that's this. The amplitude is this one right here. So come down here, the amplitude is a 2. And then the period, because they don't have any coefficient on the x in either spot there, or right here, the period is just 2 pi. Amplitude for this one over here is the coefficient out front of the cosine, which is kind of invisible, but it's a 1, because I could put a 1 there and it wouldn't change anything. Period's 2 pi for this one. We'll talk about how to deal with the period of a graph that has a number in here in the next video. So let me go up to the midline. The midline is 3, and I'm going to put a dotted line that goes like that across at 3. And now this is a sine curve. So you should know that a base sine curve looks like this. Goes up to 1, down to -1, has a period of 2 pi. So what's the amplitude do? It stretches it. Instead of going up 1 and then down 1, it's going to go up 2, back to the 0, and then down 2. So what I can do is put my little dots. I get a dot at 0. That's this dot. I get a dot up here. That's this dot. I get this, which would be where it crosses 0. In this case, it's crossing the midline. Comes down to here. That's this dot. And then it's going to come back up, and that would be this. And then I'm going to continue that pattern because it does keep going like that till we get to there. I'm going to go ahead and fill in a little curve that connects all of those, making it as smooth as possible. And then I'm going to label the period. So the period is how long it takes to go through one full rotation. So, like we said, that's 2 pi for one of these. So I put a 2 pi right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and label the amplitude as 2. You should indicate that that is at a height of 3 for the midline. And then this is good enough for this graph. Let's go over to the cosine. So for this one, I'm going to draw in my axes again. What's the midline? It's at -2. So I'll go down here, I'll put -2. I'll put a dotted line so I know what to oscillate around. And then the amplitude is 1. But we're working with a cosine graph, so instead of doing this, let me go up to here. You should know that this is what that cosine graph looks like with the period of 2 pi, as opposed to the sine, which started at 0. The cosine starts at 1. So let me just do a little sketch. Boink. Cosine goes like this. Down, up, down, and then it keeps going. So I have, from my midline, I need to go up 1 unit. Why do I go up 1 unit? Because the amplitude is 2. Say the amplitude was 7, I would go up 7 units. It means I start here, and then I just follow this pattern right here. So bam, bam. Next one is this. This one, well, my pen's acting funky. Comes down here. This one is this one. High point matches the high point from before. Notice that's the period of 2 pi, so I'm going to put my 2 pi in there. And then I'm going to continue the pattern for a little bit. Get out to there. And now I'm just going to connect everything with a nice smooth curve. Try to, at least with this computer. Like that. Want to label the amplitude. Go like this. It's kind of a small space. Just put a 1 there. That's fine. To indicate that it goes up that 1. Honestly, we've marked the scale, so that's good enough. So let's see. Did we identify the midline, amplitude, and period for each of them? And we did graph all of them. All right, so in the next video, I will show you how to deal with a little bit of ones where they change the period.